On this next episode, I am going to hide the names of the valets to protect their innocence and stupidity. This is going to be the next episode on things not to do in order to piss off your manager. Over this past week, we've had a really hard time with dealing with valets trying to call out because they're sick, not feeling good, or injured themselves. And I have to preface this with, we are not insensitive. We understand people do get hurt, people do get sick. But when it happens so often, guaranteed our managers are going to get pissed off with you. This past week, I get CC'd and I get emailed or I get text messaged on some of these messages where valets are not feeling good. So I wake up typically 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, the first thing I do is grab my phone to see if anything happened throughout the night because my phone does go silent at midnight. So I'm usually seeing text messages that say, hey, this what happened or that, I dropped some keys or something like that, and that's all perfectly fine. But when I wake up and it's a message of, hey, I can't work today, and it's now 6:30, 7 o'clock, and most of those shifts start at 8 o'clock, that's an issue. So what I have to do is get up, figure out what's going on, and move forward from there. We have valets that on a weekly basis, I'm not feeling good. My stomach hurts. And honestly, this is stuff that you do in high school. This is an adult job. And before we get too far, I have to explain, in the world of valet parking, it is very hard to cover your shifts, especially at 8 o'clock in the morning or even at 7:30. If a valet sees one of our managers calling at 7 o'clock in the morning, what do you think they're going to do? Of course, they are not going to answer their phone. And in fact, we'd be lucky to get a response from them by noon. But if a shift starts at 8 o'clock, it makes it extremely difficult. We should put people on standby, but the thing that what actually we do, our process is if you are sick, then you have to cover your own shift. The reason we say this and the reason we are so firm with this, you have to understand what being sick means. If a valet calls you and wakes up and says, hey, I'm not feeling good, I'm throwing up, what does that mean? To me, honestly, it means they are hungover. And if it's not an excuse for you not to come into work. So if someone calls and says, hey, I'm hungover, obviously they're not going to get covered. But if they sit there and say, I'm throwing up, obviously that's code word for I'm hungover. They have to get their shifts. And parts of me are like, hey, you know what? Good. Go to work. Suffer through being at work. You'll learn next time not to drink the night before you're supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. So serve your lesson right. If you have to come to work and you have to throw up every 10 or 20 minutes in the back of the lot, then so be it. But that will teach you next time, do not drink heavily. And it happens, and what happens, they end up later on admitting what they were doing. So that's one of the things. The second one, this one's kind of a new one. And I have to tread very lightly when I say this. One of our valets went out of the country for spring break, which happened a few weeks ago. When he got back, we scheduled him for all these shifts, but he's saying he can't work for XYZ reason. He thinks he has COVID. God, how do I even deal with this? Because obviously this was never an issue before. I can't jeopardize any of our accounts, any of our coworkers, any of our customers that are coming into the restaurant. So yes, this valet now has to get a COVID test, a negative one, before I put him out in the field, back out in the field. If it's a positive one, then he has to be out until he gets a negative one, and even then, it's going to be 2 weeks after, which could theoretically be a month before this valet gets back in the field. But are they saying that seriously just to get off of that shift? Or B, they really might have it? I can't take the risk. I can't put them out in the field. So yes, in that particular case, I have to get it covered. Now, I don't want my valets out there to be like, that's a great excuse. I'm going to start using that. I think I have COVID, but if you do that wrong, you'll end up out of work for over a month because we have to get you quarantined until you're able to get back to work, and you have to get a negative test results. Now, that didn't just happen once, it happened twice. Another person said, hey, my friend just got tested positive for COVID, and I was hanging out with him this past week, so I need to get myself checked. I'm not going to be able to go to work first thing in the morning. That drives us crazy. You have to have personal responsibility in any industry that you have. Now, valet parking people may see, hey, it's not a serious job. I really don't care about that job. But again, remember, a lot of valets make pretty good money. This is a serious job. You should take it seriously. The next one is also kind of difficult. I have to say, I really do believe these valets, but the valets, over the years, a few of them have twisted their ankles really bad. We have one good valet. He's actually a very good valet. He usually doesn't give any excuses. He twisted his ankle while running around in the parking lot. I don't know if he twisted it wrong, went around the corner wrong, but he was wearing a boot, and he was supposed to wear a boot for about a month. After that, for a week. But afterwards, he continued going, and basically he twisted the ankle even more the following week. So he's now out for a little while, and we now have to get his shifts covered. Now take that and combine that with another valet who said he was running down the stairs and ended up tripping and messed up his ankle, and his ankle was swollen for probably 3 or 4 days. This drives us crazy. And remember, all of this is in a 1 week, 7-day period. The final one that got me was, I think it was this past Sunday, I got a message and the valet said he had strep throat. And I was done. It was Sunday morning. I get this message at 7 o'clock and he's supposed to be at work, probably 8 o'clock or so. And I told him, unfortunately, in the nicest possible way, I'm very sorry that you're not feeling good, but you are still required to go to work. This is why it's very important. Know who your coworkers are. You'll be able to call your coworkers and say, hey, you know what, Bob, can you cover my shift? Hey, Chris, can you cover my shift? Whatever it is, you have to be very diligent on making sure you seriously try to cover your shift. Now, where it becomes dangerous is, what if they don't cover their shifts and it's now 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and I don't pay attention to it, or one of the managers don't pay attention to it, that shift goes undone. So we must follow up. So we'll say, hey, if your shift's at 5 o'clock, find out who can cover your shift and call us by 3 o'clock. If they don't call us by 3, then we know we have to go into overtime on getting those shifts covered. But if they do, then it's good. We've taught them a responsibility, and chances are, yes, we will forgive them for this and move forward. Now, here's what's important. We have valets that have worked for years, never called out. So if they ever call out after 3 or 4 years and say, hey, I'm sick, I'm not feeling good, we're going to believe them because they're very good, and usually they try to get to every single shift on time. We had no issues. But if you're new, meaning 6 months and under, and you've had second or third time of being sick or twisted ankles or something, you are going to be on probationary period. We don't know if you're going to keep you on board because we can't trust if you're going to be reliable or not. Now, here's where the funny things come in. We have some of our managers that are actually friends with some of the valets on either Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. So even if they say they're sick, the first thing we're going to do is message each other and be like, hey, do you know what's going on with John? And they're going to be like, oh, John was partying at some sorority party the other night, or a fraternity party or something like that. That's why he's hungover, and that's why he's not at work. Or we saw him at a football game. He was at a University of Georgia football game, and that's why he didn't show up today. So these are all the things. So some of the valets are actually starting to get smart and not be friends with some of the managers or even lot managers. That way they know it's not really telling on them. So I know this doesn't have much to, it may not apply to some of the people out there, but it drives us crazy. If you really want to piss off your manager really bad, call in last minute to not show up at work. It's not as easy. And here's what the thing is. If you work, let's say at a restaurant and there's probably 6 or 7 servers on the floor, then that's one thing. But if you're working a shift where it's only a 1-man or 2-man shift and you're one of those people that's not there, that's where the difficulty comes in. So please understand that. If you're another valet company owner, then you understand that too. And if you're a valet, please be considerate when you're calling out sick. Are you really sick, or is this something that, yeah, maybe I can go into work, or yeah, definitely I'm on death's door? Because what our process was, if you were really that sick, then you needed to go to the doctor or the hospital to truly get a note. And if you can drive yourself to the doctor or the hospital to get a note, then hell, you can drive yourself to work and work that shift.